All right, welcome everybody, and thank you for attending this workshop today. I appreciate it. A quick introduction from myself and my co-presenter. My name is Tim Cohn. I'm the Productivity National Practice Director here at Catapult Systems, and I appreciate everybody being here today to talk about how we're using basically artificial intelligence in the modern workplace. Andrew?
Hi, everybody. I'm Andrew Kramer. I'm a data scientist at Catapult, and I'll be here to, kind of help explain some of the more technical portions, but just so that we all kind of know what AI is and how it fits into everything that we're doing.
Yeah, they couldn't trust me with all this, so they had to bring a real data scientist into the presentation. So that's definitely a good thing. So what we're going to talk about today is what's available, right, in M365. And I've been sitting in on various discussions today, and there's actually quite a bit of functionality that we've already been talking about across the Microsoft 365 platform that utilizes both machine learning and artificial intelligence functionality. And so what we're going to talk about a little bit about that today and bring out some specific examples, talk about what's available, what you're already using, talk about some of the terminology to make sure that, when we talk about these things that the vocabulary is there, for the shared vocabulary is there for everybody. We're going to go through a few examples you use every day. We're going to go through a real quick example of how of a proof of concept that we did to drop artificial intelligence, basically machine learning, into a Power App. So very quick. And then there's a technical session on that on the technical track a little bit later this afternoon. And then we'll talk a little bit about how to be responsible, just like Spider-Man. With great power comes great responsibility. So what we want to make sure is to spend a few minutes talking about some of the concerns that people have about using this type of functionality within an enterprise, because those concerns are real. Privacy is a real thing. We all have to be sensitive to that. But using our corporate data very effectively is also responsible to understand what we're doing within the organization and what our people are doing. So the key message here is it's already in use, right? We are using AI functionality within the M365 platform every day. When I first started consulting, I came from a master's degree in econometrics, which is economic statistics, and I started working for a large consulting company, working with a large tax agency in California. And what we were trying to do was identify what the S corps and C corps, what they call pass-through entities, that were cheating on their taxes. And so one way to do this was to build models and do statistical analysis on various types of tax activity. And so we built a lot of these models, and that was a multi-million dollar, probably tens of millions of dollars effort. It was a huge effort to go through, build those models out. And then we also built out predictive models for tax collection to see how those agencies could better collect taxes or better set their workflows for this big tax collection system to route the tax collection cases to the appropriate workflow. Those were very, very expensive projects. The capability and the features to do those types of to solve those kind of really interesting problems is getting easier and easier. And a lot of this is coming from Microsoft's R&D and their investments in things like Project Cortex, Workplace Analytics, and Azure Cognitive Services. I put some links in this presentation so that when you get this presentation later, you can go out. These are tech community links or blogs, basically from the technology professionals at Microsoft that are working on these technologies, and we can drop one in for cognitive services as well. It's a place to get started to take a look at deeper issues within these technology stacks. The other component of this is relief from the trivial, right? It's really important. We do a lot of things every day that we wish we didn't have to do. And computers really, there's nothing trivial to a computer. It doesn't care if it does the same thing over and over again. And so the Andrew will talk a little bit about the reality curve of this technology. But this was a promise of computers long ago. Oh, computer will do it. It'll do everything. And we've seen that in some ways it's made more work, not less work, right? And so I think um, the recent changes that we're seeing around artificial intelligence within the Microsoft platform is really getting us to a point where we actually can get some relief from the trivial. And then we can talk a little bit about some of the tools available from different ISVs. We work with a couple, Knowledge Lake and Web Trends, that provide sort of a drop-in deluxe service around some of this stuff as well. Andrew, do you want to hit this one?
Absolutely. So Microsoft has been huge on AI as of like the last couple of years. You listen to their quarterly reports. Everything seems to be about AI and how they are focusing on AI. And this has manifested itself in a lot of different ways. I think that Microsoft, I'm pretty sure that they have more hired data scientists than any other company. And, a lot of this is kind of manifesting itself in different investments in making these tools easier to use. So we've got products like, Azure, which has all of these different machine learning tools made accessible to us. And we also have, a lot of the things that we're going to be showing in here, where it's built already into Office 365. And another example of R&D is that they invested $1 billion into the Open AI project, and that's one of the largest projects. It's got some phenomenal algorithms, and by investing in that, makes people like me able to do projects without having to spend any extra money because it's all an open source project. And finally, they also have a program called M12, which invests an incredible sum of money into artificial intelligence startups. So before I actually was employed at Catapult, I worked for one of these companies, and they gave millions and millions of dollars and gave us the opportunity to build some really neat technology. So one of the reasons I'm here, though, is because Catapult's a Microsoft shop, and this is where all of the magic is happening when it comes to data science, artificial intelligence. So the main story here is that because Microsoft is putting all of this investment in, it makes other people who haven't made that investment still be able to use those technologies. Kind of gone are the days where you need to be a data scientist to use artificial intelligence.
Thanks, Andrew. Yeah, and so until recently, I think Andrew made the case we had to have a data scientist to do just about anything. So we do have a lot of embedded functionality that you can do, and we'll get into some of this. But I think we also have a call to action slide that talks a little bit about other opportunities for you to explore advanced topics in embedded artificial intelligence. And so whether it's using these functionalities in Power Apps, or using them in Azure Cognitive Services, or using them in Outlook, actually, in your day-to-day interaction with your fellow workers. The nice thing is you only pay for what you use, right? And so we're saving the savings are there to save a lot of money on R&D and ongoing maintenance. We've talked a little bit about this already. Why use AI? Really empowering people to do the work that they need to do. But the neat thing really is the increased use of predictive analytics to optimize business strategies. Andrew, do you want to talk about a couple of things we're doing around that area?
Yeah, absolutely. So in order to reduce kind of the overhead in doing some tasks, we've got detection of form recognizers. So how do you extract information from a form that comes in? Do you have an intern kind of grinding on it all the time, or are you able to put it into the algorithm and then just get the results. Other things, we're able to make predictions and um, all sorts of kind of generally used things. But also in Office 365, they're building out, kind of these advanced analytical insights that Tim's going to be able to demo for us a little bit later. And one of the fun things is that since everything is kind of connected to other things, is that we're able to use such a broad amount of information through the Microsoft platforms.
Yeah, and then one of the examples I think something the team was working on recently was helping to predict school enrollments, right? To think about the location of new campuses, right, within a bond issue area. So for a county or something like that. So, looking at that data as we can collect more and more data, putting that to good use and being able to use some of those predictive models is a really strong business case. All right, so let's make sure that the terminology is right.
Absolutely, and I've done 4-hour versions of the next 4 slides, so I'll try to keep it short. Just wanted to let you guys know that there's a lot here that we could go into, but just because there's depth doesn't mean that we can't make these things understandable, right? So I usually like to start saying, a lot of people have different ideas, but we got to define what we think AI is. So let's start with the opposite though. What isn't AI? Well, AI is not a silver bullet. It's like, oh, all right, we need to improve sales. What's the solution? AI. Well, hold on. AI maybe with some other things. AI is probably not Skynet. I love all of these things. I love all these algorithms. I think that we're very far away from being able to have a machine that's self-aware and able to collect all of this information. In my experience, computers are actually quite dumb, frustratingly dumb, and I think that most of us kind of have had this experience before. So now that we know that it's not a silver bullet, and we know that it's probably not all-knowing, self-learning general intelligence, what are we actually going to say AI is? Can we go to the next slide, please? And like all definitions, with all problems we're solving, it has multiple answers. But the one that I like to go forward with is what we have written here. Artificial intelligence is the simulation of human cognitive processes by machines, especially computer systems. So another way of wording this is I like to think of most AI systems as a formula of some sort. It's like a black box. It takes inputs like a math formula, like maybe 1 and 1, and then it creates an output. If your formula is plus, that output would be 2. The difference here is we haven't defined that formula. We've given information, we've asked for to find patterns, and it is able to find these patterns and develop these formulas just based off of what we give it. Next slide, please. So when people are talking about AI and okay, so it's basically a formula, it can solve problems. What do I need to know? Well, there's a ton of hype around this. There's a ton of hype around the idea of a data scientist even. And this chart here on the right is something I just love to show. And it's Gartner does this analysis on the hype cycle of artificial intelligence. And it's a little small here, so maybe you can't see all of the details. But what it shows is that over time, we get more or less excited about different AI tools. So if we look at things that are at the peak of this heightened expectations area, we'd see auto machine learning. So you just give the machine some data and it just solves the problem for you. You don't need to do anything. I definitely think this is overhyped. You still need a person to kind of guide the machine. You still need a person to define the problem. And then as we move over to the right, people become a little bit neural nets are going to solve everything. No. Like neural nets are a specific tool for a specific problem. So some things are hype, but there are, as we continue to move right, there are some tools that we really do think have really good value and have been proven, and we understand them not just in an academic or business sense, but in a practical sense as well. So and examples of this is like speech recognition. It's not a fully solved problem, but I've been able to use Siri and Cortana for many years now. So there's many areas where AI has been shown to add value. Next slide, please. So a lot of people will ask me, maybe my mom will say like, "Oh, what you do analytics?" Right? There's so many words: analytics, data scientists, machine learning, AI. So some of, I'd say, the most hyped words or the most common words that we hear are artificial intelligence, machine learning, and deep learning. What is what? So artificial intelligence is, like we defined earlier, that general idea of having a machine doing something or learning something in a way that a human might, being able to give it inputs and have it figure out outputs. Machine learning is the most common methodology in order to do artificial intelligence. So if you're doing machine learning, you're probably also doing artificial intelligence. You can do artificial intelligence just with regular rules, but machine learning are these set of rules and techniques that allow it to learn by itself. And then what is deep learning? Deep learning is a subset of machine learning models. So maybe a more standard machine learning model would be called a random forest. A deep learning method is where there are deeply nested layers that are passed in the algorithm. And this is all just to say it's a type of machine learning algorithm. So if somebody says deep learning, you can just think machine learning algorithm. That's a little bit more complicated. Hopefully that clarifies some things. So the last thing here is the word model. Like I said before, a model generally is a mathematical representation of some aspect of reality. So in this case, our model is our black box. Our model is our formula. Our model is whatever we want it to be. And in this case down here, this is Lou, the cat. If we have a model, and that's that formula that takes in pixels and makes predictions on what those pixels represent, that's the model. It's an object of a formula. The data is the pixels of Lou, and then the prediction is what the model predicts based off of the data, based off of how it has been trained.
I'm sure Lou is perfectly nice.
Lou is a bit standoffish, I'll be entirely honest, but very, very sweet boy. So I won't go into all of these because I really don't want to bump into too much of the demo time, but I want to make sure to put these on the slide so that people are able to come back and reference this later. I think that the number one that I wanted to at least point out is when I was first getting into the industry, I know that I was a bit thrown off by it. It was just the word algorithm. I don't want people to be afraid of the word algorithm. Algorithm is just a set of rules. So, maybe it's in code, but it's just do A, then B, then C. So a lot of these algorithms, though they can be very complex, an algorithm is just a thing that follows a set of instructions, and that's all. So yeah, and if you guys have other questions about some of these other details, we can reach out to me, and I'm happy to answer that. But that's all I have on just general, what is artificial intelligence?
Great, and we'll quickly segue into kind of everyday. I was watching the Ignite presentation, and I think it was Brian Todd. One of the speakers at Microsoft was saying that M365 is the world's productivity cloud, and I thought that was pretty cool because a lot of these AI capabilities are coming to the world basically through M365. And so we'll go through a few quick ones. I think what we want to do is look at both an insight engine. We'll look at a little bit of Cortana, and then we can talk the SharePoint syntax that was just announced at Ignite is a little too new to demo, but we'll talk a little bit about Power Platform, AI Builder, and sort of the cross-platform reach between M365 and Azure to take advantage of some of these cognitive services in a more easy way. But let's go ahead and talk about an insights engine real quick. And for this, I'm going to get a little vulnerable here and show you my insights. Because really the key to all this is having the data, right? And so these are my insights, so please ignore my bad habits. But as we go through this, you'll see a lot of these are algorithms, right, that have been built to say what is, and they've been trained to say what is good and what is bad. And so things like focus and well-being and my network and my collaboration, there have been rules or algorithms created by Microsoft to bring all of this forward. And so we'll talk a little bit about the responsible use of this data towards the end of the presentation. But for right now, I mean, as a rule, basically, and there's, I think I've got this up here, the privacy guide for my analytics users. It's great reading. You can go through there and take a look at that. And what it is and is not built for. But it's important in that contract with employees to make sure that they understand that this is private data to be used. I ask some of my managers to voluntarily share this with me every once in a while to go through, and not this general data, but some specific pieces.